Now, don't you wish your dog could live a long, long, long life? I mean, maybe if you named your puppy Methuselah, you might have a chance, but I think that's just wishful thinking. So, what is the secret to healthy aging in our dogs? Here with answers today on our show is one remarkable veterinarian. He is an international best-selling author. He was voted America's favorite veterinarian. And oh yeah, he was named Holistic Practitioner of the Year. You know what's coming. Bow wow. That's a lot. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Gary Richter. Welcome, Dr. Gary.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
I want to say pause and applause. You wrote a must-get book back in 2017. It was called The Ultimate Pet Health Guide. You are also the founder. I love this word. He's got a preference for this word. Ultimate Pet Nutrition. We got the ultimates in there. And now, hot off the press, you have not one, but two books out. For those watching on the YouTube, Dr. Gary, go ahead and shout out the titles.
Longevity for Dogs and Longevity for Cats.
Perfect. All right. For this episode, let's talk about dogs. And I went through the book. I got to tell you, there's some big words in here that I actually use explained easily, but you take a holistic and integrative approach to keeping our dogs living long lives. But we're going to back up the bus a minute and just say, let's talk about longevity in dogs. Maybe a generation ago, what do you think the life expectancy was for dogs? And do you have any knowledge of what it is today?
Well, life expectancy for dogs, as you know, is pretty dependent sort of on breed and size and that sort of thing. But there has been a trend, over the years that in many cases, dogs' lifespans seem to be getting shorter. And there's undoubtedly a very long list of reasons why that is. Some of it may have to do with breeding. I think a lot of it has to do with environment and nutrition. I don't think that, certainly the environment that all of us live in is problematic, particularly those of us who live in, in urban areas where there may be a lot of exposure to toxins, that sort of thing. And really, I think that I think you can't overstate the importance of the nutritional situation when it comes to animals. That is, in my opinion, the single biggest problem that we're facing when it comes to our pets and, quite frankly, ourselves is at the end of the day, you can have the best healthcare and take all the best supplements, but if you or your pet are not getting an optimal diet, you're building a house on a foundation of sand. It's just not going to work.
Well, you do have a pyramid in your book, and at the base, the biggest, of course, is nutrition.
Yeah.
I want to dive into that a little deeper in a second, but you also pointed out that there was a dog, according to the Guinness people, that was 30 years, 8 months. That was supposedly the oldest dog. But you personally cared for a client's dog, a Chihuahua. Do you remember how old that dog was?
Yeah, I believe that little dog made it to 22, 23.
Wow.
In that neighborhood, yeah. So, that's always impressive when you see little dogs or any dog get to that age. And it's always an interesting conversation to have with people about sort of what they have either done or haven't done to achieve those kinds of results.
So at the beginning of the book, Longevity for Dogs, and I'm going to say the subtitle because I think it's important, everybody. It's a holistic, individualized approach to helping your canine companion live longer and healthier. I like the fact that you brought in folks from the human medicine world and the fact that longevity science, it's starting to be a hot topic, isn't it, for both people and pets?
Oh yeah, it's longevity science is really cutting edge when it comes to medical research right now. Not surprisingly, most of that research is human focused. The funny thing about veterinary medicine, as you well know, is sort of from a medicine and technology perspective, veterinary medicine has a tendency to run maybe 10 or 20 years behind human medicine, on with any given topic. So this longevity topic for me is really exciting because this is a moment that we can sort of turn the tables a little bit, in the sense that this is all so new in human medicine that we can bring this in on the veterinary side as well. And we can kind of do this simultaneously. And on some level, we actually have more leeway to do this in animals first, just because of the regulatory environment. We just have a lot more flexibility in how we can help our pets, more so than perhaps even your physician does when it comes to us.
So when you hear this phrase, age is not a disease, what's your response? What's your reaction? What's your take on that phrase?
You know what? That was a phrase that was drilled into me and my classmates when I was in veterinary school. Age is not a disease. And that has forever been the approach of Western medicine, is that we can talk about cancer and heart disease and kidney disease and all these other various specific diseases, but age is just sort of this inevitability that happens.
Okay.
And because of that, there hasn't really been any real concerted effort or thought put into, can we cure aging? Because it's not a disease, it's just a thing that happens. As the science has matured, and this is discussed in detail in the books, is we now have what have been termed the hallmarks of longevity. And what this means is these are the very specific cellular and chemical processes that happen in the body that lead to the body aging and deteriorating and ultimately dying. And now that we're understanding the mechanics of how those processes work, now we're starting to understand the mechanics of how to intervene and slow or even potentially reverse those processes. So all of a sudden, we can look at aging as a disease process, in so much as it's not just some vaporous magic that happens behind the scenes. It's a very specific set of processes that happen, just like, for example, when a person gets heart disease, there are very specific things that are happening in the heart that cause the heart to deteriorate and stop functioning. And we will take action to stop or reverse that. Now we can do that on the aging front as well. And that is going to completely change the picture of how we approach this entire process that we call aging.
So you have some villains you want people to know about so that we can sidestep them, so our dogs can become the Betty Whites, the Bob Barkers of their species. And oxidative stress, inflammation from food, and the gut microbiome. I don't want this to sound like a professor lecture course, but when people hear the phrase oxidative stress, what does that mean, and how does that relate to getting their pet healthy?
Sure. And without kind of getting into the real nitty gritty of it, there are processes that happen in the body that cause damage to the cells within the body. Some of that is just part of our natural body processes. In other words, just, our natural metabolism, the way our cells work, create byproducts that can be toxic, such as oxidants. So everybody's heard of antioxidants, right? So our body produces antioxidants. Many of us take antioxidants as supplements. There are antioxidants in food. And what these are is these are natural counterbalances to the processes that naturally occur in our body. So there's a balance between oxidation and antioxidants. But what happens is when we're eating the wrong things or living the wrong lifestyle or being exposed to certain chemicals or toxins, that level of oxidation in our body goes up dramatically, and it starts causing damage at a cellular and even a subcellular, a DNA level. And those are the things that promote aging: cellular damage, DNA damage, all the kinds of things that mean every time your cells replicate, the cells that they're creating are not as functional as the ones that came before them. With each successive step, what winds up happening is the body functions less and less efficiently, and that is effectively what aging is. So balancing that level of oxidation through diet, lifestyle, supplements, medication. You brought up gut health. The other huge
That's
thing
a big one. because I went to Global Pet Expo and I think the buzzword was microbiome.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, microbiome refers to the population of bacteria and microorganisms that live in our gastrointestinal tract. A lot of people may not realize that 70% of our immune system lives in our gastrointestinal tract. So when our gut is not healthy, our immune system is not healthy, and thus we are not healthy. So maintaining an appropriate level and spectrum of microorganisms in the gut is critically important to good health. Needless to say, diet has a lot to do with that. Medications have a lot to do with that. Indiscriminate use of antibiotics can absolutely destroy the microbiome. Certain foods we eat will promote the wrong type of bacteria growing in our gut. And just to make things even more interesting, there's a whole process in the body that is referred to as the gut-brain axis. And that is the direct connection that happens between what's going on in our gut and what's going on in our brain. So, for example, in humans, there are now direct links that have been made between poor gut health and diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So gut issues lead to major medical issues that are not necessarily thought of as gut diseases.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life. Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content. Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life.